My name is Kwadwo Amofa Fofie. I was born in a small community in the Ashanti region called Okankrom, near Asokore, Ashanti. Actually, I was told my mom gave birth to 9 children, but I met only 6. 3 passed on, and 6, I think a year ago, another one passed away. I started schooling from Okankrom, that small community, and interestingly, there was another smaller community called Odrokrom that was much more like a twin town to Okankrom, and at the time there was no school there, so they decided to start a school, a primary school. At that time, you need to be around 6 years to start school. But at 5, they were writing names of people who want to start the school, and my brother-in-law added my name. So I started the school as one of the pioneers. So I happen to be, if not the youngest, among the youngest in the class 1, and we happen to be the seniors of the school. At Okankrom, at a point, my father thought that the people there do not continue education, and because, as it were, we call it a village. But I grew to see that it's a smaller community than to call it a village anyway. So he was trying to get me out of the school, but all efforts proved futile because both parents were illiterates. Actually, they never attended school, my mom and my dad, but they were interested in the fact that we should go to school. So when I completed Form 4, then I was asking what I would do. One thing that happened, which was very unfortunate, was that even though most people were not attending school from that community when they complete Form 4, they were writing common entrance every year, and that was the means to get to secondary school. Other than that, you could continue straight away to Teachers Training College after the Form 4. So I was waiting that I could get the opportunity to write a common entrance and then continue education, because I was very tiny, I mean, if I should put it that way, and I could not imagine learning a trade, carpentry or mason or whatever, and I was interested in going to school. But before I was aware, the other people, the headmaster never went for the forms, and the time had expired, so there was no hope to go to school that year. But one day I was there when I went to we had this borehole we were fetching water from, and I went there, and I met a lady who was 1 year behind me in school, called Millicent. And Millicent told me she was going to Efijasi. That is the nearest biggest community. Efijasi and Asokore are twin towns, and there Efijasi Secondary Commercial was at Efijasi, and Ahmedia Secondary School was at Asokore. So this lady told me she was going there to write late entrance. That is another examination that schools that could not get enough people who had requested to be there through the common entrance used it to select additional students to join the school. So I said, then I'm interested. So I came to tell my mom, and then she said, why not take transport and go and try? So when I went there, I got the opportunity to write the exams, and I was eventually selected. That's how come I was able to go to secondary school from that time, which was 1986. I did business there and completed in 93 before I continued to University of Cape Coast to do Bachelor of Education Business Administration as my first degree, and I came out to work for a while, and I went back to Legon to do executive MBA in project management, because I at that point I realized that I needed to open up and learn other things, because all along I had been learning accounting directly. So I did project management. I happened to get an opportunity to the United States of America on 3 occasions, 2 at Washington DC, to learn about business planning and financial projection, and then Southern New Hampshire University to learn about microfinance. Then when I finished with my first degree, I worked for a while and got married to my wife, that is Cynthia, now Cynthia Amofa Fofie. I would say I saw her in school and met her after school. I would say so because when we were in the final year, she came for the first year, and interestingly, I had not thought of marrying, and at the time too, I had not also decided to date. And my reason was that I felt I had to do my master's before I marry. And I felt if I get myself so much, attached to someone, my decision will be influenced by the person's decisions, and my timing might be compromised. And so I had to wait, if anything, come out, finish with, get to my master's before. And then Auntie Cynthia, I had seen her, she came, and I thought she was dating. But I really admired how she was. Actually, I was the vice president of the fellowship on campus, and for that matter, we were the leaders of the church. She came, and she was one of the few ladies who would go extra mile, especially when we are having programs, to work, clean, and do all the arrangements. She was also very humble and very modest in her dressing and all that. I quite remember at the time I was on campus, I was a vegetarian. I had been a vegetarian for some time. And so later she became, well, I think she came, 2 years, a year after I came. So she was there 2 years before I left. Okay. And she was made a head deaconess. And she would sometimes prepare soup, thinking that those of us who are vegetarians will find it difficult to get something to eat, and especially on Fridays she will pass by, and when I was sharing a floor with our fellowship president, so he gave us some soup and some banku, and that was nice. So in effect, I never thought of marrying her because I thought she was dating, and I had also decided not to get myself committed to someone. But it's when I came out from school and I was working and I felt I needed to marry because I had to work for some time before I go and do my master's. A friend of mine who is also from my hometown next to my house, I discussed my intention to get married and said, why not consider Cynthia? He was there when I left, and so he was still with Cynthia on campus. I think this lady, and he was married. Actually, he taught for some time before going, and he said, if I were you, I'll consider that lady. That is a very good lady. That's why I say that I saw her, but I met her when I had. First of all, I learned something from my dad. My dad was hardworking, and my dad was managing his business. He was actually a farmer and a trader at the same time. So when I was in the elementary school up to the middle school, my father would take us to the farm and take us to communities to buy kola nuts, and then you export it to northern region, Boko, sometimes to Nigeria, and so on and so forth. So, and he was doing very well. And when he's coming, he will buy some, will cross the border to Burkina and other places and bring cloth to come and sell, and sometimes some sheep and goat and stuff to come and sell. So I felt like he was doing well on his own. Then when I got to secondary school, I was still joining them as they were going around buying stuff to go and sell. When I finished my national service, during my national service, my brother wrote a book, and he was selling. I was selling the books as I was doing my national service, and I felt it was good, and I felt he was also a teacher, a professional teacher, and was doing that on the side. Now, when I went to Cape Coast, I realized at UCC we were buying, one had to go and buy not less than 15 exercise books for all the courses that you'll be doing. And we're buying all from some shops around the place called Apruska. I was at the old site. And I asked myself, this is a good business. Can't one take an advantage? So what crossed my mind was, we were printing my brother's books from Sita Printing Press. So I called them and asked them if they should design an exercise book, how much would they cost, and compared it to how much we were selling it on campus. So I felt it was going to be a good deal. So I designed the thing in such a way that I wrote at the back, UCC graduate. UCC graduate. Now, because UCC, I could not just use the UCC name, because the graduate was down, you can't say it's UCC book. And I designed a graduate at the back. Actually, I made a lot of money from this business. Eventually, Sita Printing Press will do it from Kumasi, give it to a car, bring it to Tantri. I'll go and pick it. Then I will send the money through Barclays Bank, and then I will sell when I finish. So later, I was distributing to people at various halls to take commission and sell. I think one time too, I joined the Ashanti Students Union to Togo, and I saw some panties, boxer and all that for young guys. I bought it, and when I came, the price as compared to how much, I made a lot on it. So at the back of my mind, I realized doing something on your own wouldn't be a bad thing, but I was yet to taste the formal work and see how things go. So when I came out and I worked with World Vision Ghana for 4 years, I came to Adra, Ghana and worked there. From there, I joined Bace Capital for a year. Now, when I got to Bace Capital, I realized that this is a young man who started something. And in fact, when I returned from US after the microfinance training, I started training her staff for them. They were only 7. Within 2-3 years, the number was increasing, the portfolio was increasing, and he could take decisions and implement the decisions without bottlenecks, without interference, because he was doing the thing as his own. So when I joined him, I realized the potentials that I have, the discipline level that I had, the aggression that I had. If I decide to do my own, it would be very fruitful, because sometimes you get an idea, you want to implement it, but you need someone's approval, and you might not get the space and the opportunities to even implement it the way you see it to be. Now, what actually finally informed my decision was that at Bace, this gentleman eventually had been able to grow the business, and the staff strength had increased so much. And at the point, he would call all of us, and there would be a program. I remember we had Bace Academy, and at a point we were inaugurating and we were graduating the people who had passed through the academy, of course staff. And he did the program. He would invite Uniba Youth Choir and other people, and there would be talks and all that. I could say that because he was the CEO, he had the opportunity to call us and talk to us. I asked myself one day that with all the knowledge God has granted me, growing from the church, learning from the Bible, and how difficult it is to even get certain people to witness to, if I was to be the owner of the company and I had these people that I could have devotion with, share the God with, I would make much impact in terms of witnessing. So coupled with all that I had experienced from the various places that I had worked, and with the potentials and with the opportunity to share the word of God with people who would respect you because you have created jobs for them, and they cannot decide to come for devotion or decide not to come for devotion. I said, I need to come out with my own company, and I know it will be a very great opportunity to not only grant people jobs, but also share the word of God with them. And from there, I came out to start this company. The fear was so much that it had taken me some time, and I had to consult some people. Even when there had been an opportunity that my wife had joined me and had stopped her work, and she could start it as a trial thing to see whether it was going to work, I realized if it would work, I had to resign and come. Now the question is, if you put all our eggs in one basket and it fails, what happens? However, I had the opportunity of going through a system to gain the knowledge, and I therefore had the opportunity to make it work better because of my background and all that I had experienced, and the trainings and the exposure and all that I had had. Yet the fear was, if I should come and it doesn't work, how will that help? But I remember whilst thinking about this, and sometimes I would talk to some people. That is one thing that I learned later, that if you are taking counsel, be careful where you take the counsel from. But I had spoken to some people who had even made my fear grown, deeper. That be careful, because people have done that and it didn't work well for them. But one day, I think I went to Kumasi. I had to pass through Koforidua, and I remember the very spot I won't forget. I was listening to a program, and I think it was City FM thereabout. And the host or the presenter was making this statement that sometimes people have fear, and when they have to do something, they out of fear, they keep their abilities and their potentials, and they are not able to move on. I am speaking to you. Take a step, move, and it will work for you. In fact, that thing hit me like I was the one the person was talking to. So when I came back, I told my wife, from what I see, I think I need to make a move. Then I spoke to one elder called Elder Asifi, Nyami Asifi, is an Adventist. And when I went to him, this elder too told me, Mr. Amofa, from what you are telling me, you better move and start. And if you don't, you will disappoint your God. So I decided that I'll move. But when I was moving, knowing very well I don't have support in terms, and I would need to keep my family going, I made up my mind. I was doing trainings and a little bit of consultancy for other institutions. So my decision was to stop the formal work, and then at least every month try and get one training to do to keep myself going, so that I don't put my burden on the institution, knowing the kind of business that I wanted to do and the money involved, that if I decide to put all my burden on the business, I may not do a good thing to the business. So that was it, and I was able to make the move. Yeah, my greatest fear for the younger generation is that to be successful. In fact, I've traveled to Europe, at least to Asia in terms of China. I've traveled to US, America. And when I look at what makes one successful, there are certain virtues like being hardworking, being aggressive, managing your time very well, and then having the patience to win eventually, not to rush to win. But the fear that I have for the younger generation is that some are lazy. They want to make it when they have not invested enough energy for what they are looking for. Another issue is that in life, you have to learn before you earn. But the youth of today want to earn before they learn. Okay? When you even compare that to Jesus' strategy, when he called the disciples, he had to have time to teach them and groom them before asking them to go out there and work out. But then, the youth of today, when you are recruiting them or when they want to work, the intention is not to learn, but it's about how much I want to earn. And it's about, when they are talking, it's about how much you are earning, not how much you are learning from where you are. And that thing is influencing them to take a lot of wrong decisions, because they get disappointed when 1-2 years they are not getting enough, and it's like they are being cheated. And so then something that they have to pay themselves well by also cheating, other stealing or taking what they shouldn't take, and all sort of. And then sometimes they become angry with the system that they are, because to them, they should earn more than they are earning. And so the people they should learn from become people they are annoyed with. So they don't even have the patience to learn from them. And that is my fear for the younger generation.